Hey, I'm Tim, and this is the Love at First Sight podcast, a podcast for SaaS CEOs and developers that truly want to learn more about design and care about it, but they're not designers that find it too complex. In every episode, we discuss how to design products that become sticky and unforgettable. We dive into the topics of taste, UX, growth, and conversions, and we share practical tips and frameworks you can add into your development process. Enough with the intro, so let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast officially, and thanks for making the time to join me to discuss all things around AI and UX today. You're
Glad to be here.
you're actually the first AI product that we have in the. Yeah, I mean we had also Tally, for example, Form Builder, but yeah, you're the most AI kind of focused product that we had in the podcast. So yeah, that's
Wow.
pretty cool. Yeah, as I mentioned, we always start with a quick intro of who you are, what's your story, and what you're focused on right now, so that people who are listening can get in a quick idea.
Yeah. So, Mickey Alon, nice to meet you, and thank you for having me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Foldspace. We're kind of a agentic or AI native solution, helping solutions like that actually deliver an agentic interface. It is basically looking at a product that's becoming agentic is for us is like how can we change the way users interact with software. Is basically can we collapse the distance between that user intent and outcomes. And I think with AI we can actually deliver that. This is my third company, so in the past I would say 20 years I kind of focus on personalization, and I built the first company around website personalization, top of funnel. How can I deliver the best message to the right person in real time? And they can find what they're looking for. Then the second company, the first company got acquired by Marketo. Then I led Marketo, the development team, for a couple of years, and then Marketo got acquired by Adobe. And then the second company was about product-led growth. We built a platform that actually tracks usage data for SaaS, also delivers tooltips and walkthroughs and surveys, and chooses to help companies understand their customers, the end user. And that got acquired as well. Joining Gainsight, we kind of dealt with customer success and product experience. So my entire career is how do I kind of really tie and deliver the best customer experience? How do I can then get that feedback loop back to the product people, the UX people, and just like to deliver better product into the market. So today our vision with AI and Foldspace in specifically is we want to change the way users interact with software, right? We are basically an agentic interface that you could deploy and make your users come into your solution. They can say what they want to the agent, and the agent does, operating your product. So that's kind of the vision behind the Foldspace, and what kind of led me to kind of build this company. When I was part of Marketo and Gainsight, both became category leaders, right? And I analyzed all that journey and what we learned through that journey. So at Marketo, we basically became the market automation tool, a very customer centric. Eventually, what I've learned over time is customers are asking for a lot of features, and to be the category leaders, you have to be the most powerful solution, but simple, right? The most complete and simple and easy to use. And that was like kind of challenging. It great with messaging, by the way. I think it was powerful, simple, and complete. Great in messaging, but how do you deliver that kind of power without complexity? And it led to a lot of like friction. And when I actually saw what users are actually using, we've realized that I would say most of the users knew about 60%, 40% of what Marketo can offer. So I realized, hey, many solutions in SaaS B2B and product managers know that most of the customers don't know most of their features, which is kind of really hard to think about. And then moving to Gainsight, a customer success company, you realize that companies deploy a lot of customer success in many cases because there's a lot of friction in the product. And it is about like complex product that offer potentially a lot of outcomes, But eventually, to get to that expertise, you need that assistant. You need that customer success. So I felt, hey, in SaaS, I think companies take 10 years to get to profitability. In a great success story like Marketo and Gainsight, it took 10 years to get to that profitability and to be like that category leader. And I think that it's a lot to do with how do you build the right product? How do you deliver it? How can your customers actually use it and see the outcome so you eventually get to recurring growth? And that what led to me like, hey, this is actually a huge pain. And many of that elements are tied to user experience and the product. This is why I kind of thought about, hey, Foldspace, I want to really change the way this works. And can I actually suddenly collapse the distance between that user intent and outcome? Because users comes into your platform, they have an outcome in mind. And then what is blocking them is the product complexity, the menu diving, the cognitive load, there's best practices, right? Can we eliminate that? And I think AI today can eliminate that and just like turn your product to a lovable product, right? Come in, you state the outcome, it helps you build, you still iterate. There's a lot of like elements like that. So yeah, that's kind of my passion and my background around this company, and yeah, would love to kind of
Love
help.
it. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Like, and that's why I wanted you also on the podcast, honestly, because I really like the point of view you have on the market, and that I've seen not like similar exactly tools, but tools, for example, where they say we're gonna kill the customer success or we're gonna kill like sales or whatever, where they're trying to create virtual avatars and so on, and all these never really. Uh, they never really felt right to me in a way. I'm not, of course, like the master to judge what is right and wrong in the industry, like the market is gonna show us. But as a human, they just feel wrong. And what I always like with your approach is that you just create another layer of interaction that is based, like you said it before, and it's very true, that it's based on something that already exists, and it's the customer success. Like a customer success person, actually, that's if I think about ZenMate, one of the teams we work with, for example, the customer success essentially makes people less scared to use the software. That's one thing, because they're not technical. We're talking about cleaning business owners, so they make them feel safer.
Mm.
So it's really doing a bit of a demo. And the other one is the feature adoption that you mentioned, is that we have, for example, service ratings, and people can discover them in many different places, but this doesn't mean they're going to always pay attention. And sometimes they have, like, one thing we've been realizing now that we're exploring the agentic experience and creating some kind of chatbot is that it's a really good tool to upsell, or like upsell, not necessarily that they need to pay to access it, but more like to push for usage of new features that people they know about. So they may say, are my customers happy? Let's say they ask this, then it can tell, hey, you're not using the service ratings, maybe you should start using. Of course, like, yeah, this is kind of a fake scenario, but something like this where they're trying to find something, and then the AI can tell them, oh, you could also use this functionality, and now you increase the adoption and the retention and all the things you're going to optimize in the SaaS product. So that's what I really like with your approach, is that you make this super simple of like, hey, don't go and build it by yourself. Just plug in Foldspace and can get all this value. And one thing we've been discussing, the two of us, in previous calls, is also the analytics part that is really interesting. Like for me as a designer, I'm really curious to see what people are going to prompt in that chatbot and understand what they're looking for and what they're struggling with, actually, because it's a great source of knowledge at the same time for ideas and improvements of the product. So yeah, that's something
Yeah,
that I
I'm
really
like
like.
I was very passionate about like how as a founder, like how do I really build the right solution, right? And is this like data driven decisions, experiments? It's like, because data is eventually, I would say, building products is half science and half art,
Yeah.
right? It's basically, you need to kind of be creative thinking because you're building something new. So how do you figure this out? How do you create like a closed loop feedback? How do you measure things so it can actually become more data driven as you experiment? So always passionate about that innovation. Is innovation something that you're just like lucky to be at the right place? Is it only data? Is it a combination? So I thought like, hey, when you start measuring things, in many cases, what happens today is you're looking at clicks, right? Page views. And it's really hard to understand the intent, what users are trying to do when they actually are using, you track just the clicks and page views. But now with AI, they would just chat. And in the chat, I think there's a gold mine of intent. There's a gold mine of many, many elements that you can learn from. And that's something that I feel like I'm really passionate about. I want to understand like what users are trying to achieve. They're going to just tell to the agent. So now I can actually understand. And what we say is like, clicks, I would say like, clicks, whisper, and prompt actually yell. People actually telling that. So to me, going agentic allows you to really learn what customers are trying to do. Going agentic has its own like challenges as well, like because they are not necessarily even know if you have the feature. Right? It's like you might have the feature or you might not. They see a prompt that they're gonna actually ask you, or ask the agent. So you can suddenly for the first time tap into demand. You can tap into the sentiment. You can understand what they're trying to achieve. How do they describe the problem? What actually the problem they have? When they click around, you don't know what are they looking for. Clicking here, clicking there, you have no idea. When they chat, you know what they're looking for, and you can actually measure. So to me, for the first time, we can actually speak about true analytics that is combining usage, and then but also intent. So to me, it's like it's a really, really powerful way to learn, closing the loop. Another thing about the agentic interface is you can run experiments. Today, when you launch features with the classic UI and menus, you can't really run experiments and kind of move the menus around. But when you think about agentic interface, you can definitely launch capabilities the agent can suddenly do, and even visualization inside the chat. And you can easily move it, take it away, tweak it without massive changes and to documentation, training, all that dependency. So I think that from that perspective, the learning from data is becoming actually easier and more powerful.
Yeah, pretty much agree on everything. And also like on the part of analytics of like combining the qualitative with the quantitative part, like that you actually close the loop and you have both. Because honestly, with the data, we work with companies that are between 1 to 5 million of annual recurring revenue. They're usually bootstrapped. And what we've seen is that they're not really crazy about tracking or anything. And many times the tracking they have is pretty basic to barely kind of exist sometimes. And the thing with analytics is that from my personal experience, it's only a few times where I found them truly useful. And there is this guilt of, oh, maybe I'm just not good. Like maybe I'm just doing it in the wrong way. But the more that I talk with people, I realize that I'm not the only one. Of course, I cannot say analytics in general not useful because we've done A/B tests and that was really useful. It was clear. You have two variants and this is how both of them perform, how many people saw them. So it was really scoped analytics. And then we have the high level metrics that we look at companies. But when it comes to product usage, it was pretty chaotic. Like, you can come up with a percentage of how many people use the invoicing feature, let's say. But yeah, in the end, what can you do with it? It's just a signal. Like, are many people using it or not? And the interesting thing is when you combine it with like what kind of goal do they have? What are the things that they're actually trying to do? Because if you just track clicks, yeah, like what can you learn from it? It's like, okay, like that many people go and create an invoice per month. Cool. But this doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, it's what I'm trying to say is that finding meaningful data that can tell a story and give you something to do is not easy when you just have numbers. And when you can combine it, it's with the actual content and the intent is where it gets really useful. Like, small example from KnowledgeOwl is a knowledge-based software we're working with, and there we build an AI chatbot for the actual knowledge base, the customer-facing website. And one of the things that the customers of KnowledgeOwl love is that when they start using that native AI chatbot, they can see what people are searching for, and then they can tell, okay, could people find an article and find an answer or not? So they have very clear guidance. Here's what I need to prioritize in terms of my documentation, for example. So it's a very good example of like what you're describing, scoped only in documentation for customer support. Yeah, if you can have this for the whole product usage, that's gold mine. It's it's really, really useful.
Yeah.
And
it is kind of helping you to understand the why behind the
yeah,
what,
exactly.
right? They
Exactly.
do this, but why? Right, and or they don't do the other, then why? But it also changes the way usage data now is measured, because eventually when we build Gainsight and we work with companies like Adobe and others, so we basically realize, number one, like the more usage, obviously usage is a stronger indication for adoption
Yeah.
and prevention of churn. It's the best cure
Yeah.
for churn is product adoption. And obviously if they use the advanced features, then it means they see better value,
Yeah.
which leads to better renewal rate and
Yeah.
better outcome, right? So there's a kind of a correlation between, like, do they know about the advanced features? Do they know how to use advanced features? Do they spend the time to learn? And if they do, they most likely see outcome. And if they see outcome, they're most likely to renew or expand and so forth. And I feel like this is going to change dramatically, because as a user, I can today engineer success into that solution. Why? Because when you prompt something and the agent does, the agent can do and operate advanced features as a user. I don't necessarily need, I might not even know. So usage of advanced features will go up instantly, but without necessarily, it's going to be implicit usage versus explicit usage. Implicit usage meaning I just prompted something and then the agent did it. So I think that is another area of, like, when you think about tracking and understanding like usage and driving user behavior to learn your solution and driving users to use the advanced features. I think agentic experience is, or AI native is changing that. I no longer come to learn your solution, learn the advanced UI stuff. I came for the outcome. So that's a major change. If you're trying to educate me a lot, I might want to be educated about, like, maybe the messaging or the framework, but not necessarily educating me about how to use your solution, because that's something that not necessarily is going to be a successful path to win clients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I fully agree. And like what you mentioned in the previous conversation we had about, especially like more enterprise products, where like when you have a ton of functionality and it's already built, like there is a lot of technical complexity, a lot of kind of a different constraints, saying that you're going to just fix the UX is not really a solution. And that's where these kind of products can really help. Like when you have a lot of legacy things as well, and products with a ton of functionality that you really cannot just solve with great UX, because it becomes more of an ambition and less of a tangible goal you can hit within the next months. And the cool thing with the Foldspace is also that you can just have it like next month. Like the speed of delivering that value is way faster than any redesign you can do. That's for me something that is very interesting there.
Th-
Go for it.
that's another learning, by the way. Like when we I went through a couple of like revamping the UI projects. I think even Salesforce back then did a huge revamp of the UI. It took them like more than a year at minimum. Then eventually what happens is, like, your new user says, hey, the product looks nicer. It looks more modern, color, fonts, you name it. Existing users hate it because now you moved stuff they know around. It's a tool, right? You came in to do something and suddenly where is that element? So you have to suddenly upset your core users just for looking nicer for new users. Eventually, did you actually cut the functionality? Did you change the functionality? In many cases, not materially. So you end up with like massive, expensive project that ends up putting like a lipstick on a pig. I don't think that Salesforce became easier product to use. I think it just became maybe nicer to view, but not necessarily easier to use, because again, it has a lot of like features, menu. You have to go menu diving. There's no way around this. So when you think about the next time you think about UI revamp, think twice. Is it like really necessary? In as soon as you're going to become AI first and AI native, UI has a serious job, but not necessarily the menus and menu diving and all that elements. So revamping a UI is always a signal that you have a lot of features, and now you're going to spend a lot of time, and you're going to make some of the customers very happy. It looks great, but most of the customers are going to be upset because they now need to relearn all the
Mm.
menu diving they learned before. So
Yeah,
it's an
exactly.
opportunity to think about agentic and AI first, because it's a major decision point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also even on this, the other thing like that comes to my head, like just by thinking in practical way of like what would I do, like how would I navigate this path is you prioritizing what to redesign. So like some redesigns will eventually have to happen in a way, like because it's kind of the nature of product evolution as well. But like prioritize when you have a lot of features, which one to redesign? That's another question where you need some kind of a like when you can see through a tool like this for an agentic experience also where to put your money and time essentially, which is the prioritization is a big thing and super useful there. So yeah,
Yeah, I
on
think that
these, yeah,
there's a lot of like one of the elements, because I was also kind of co-author of Mastering Product-Led Growth, PLG. I think it's the
mm-hmm.
first PLG book out there in
I see.
2016. And back then we said like, hey, number one, you start from the first mile of product, remove the friction points.
Mm-hmm.
And in UI, when you analyze where, like, you need to find the area with a friction point and then optimize these. Again, when you think about AI native or AI first, those kind of go away. You want to delegate the cognitive load to the agent. So friction is now redefined. Is there a friction? If you move to more generative, ask for the user's input or outcome, and then so I think the playbook for PLG completely changed now,
Mm-hmm.
because as opposed to, hey, drive them for, back then, driving user to first value, or what we said aha moment, was about really driving you with tooltips to click somewhere and think that, oh, now you're going to get my product. With AI first and AI native, that is changing. You can actually do a generative play where you generate that outcome for that user, and that it's not reducing friction; it eliminates the friction completely.
Yeah,
So that's a
exactly.
big promise when you go agentic. With the big question is like, what's the role of the UI in an agentic area, in AI first strategy?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, on this one, that would be a good topic because the next key topic that I want to dive into is like AI, like to zoom out a bit and discuss about AI in general. So yeah, that would be a good question to even start with. Like, what's the role of UX and UI in the future from your point of view? Like, we can discuss both of our point of views, but yeah, I'm curious about yours. Like, how do you see the future of, let's say, SaaS user experience, and if like the agent experience is gonna coexist with some existing ones or replace or maybe something else.
I think what we're seeing is like a huge swing. First, it swings like everything's going to be chat. And there's no UI. It's headless SaaS. And in the end, it's like, when you actually even want to book a flight and so forth, you want to see the seats because it helps you see which seat to select. You want to see comparison, and visual is much, much more powerful than chat. Text is not something fun necessarily. So chat, to tell you what I need, chat is the best way, maybe voice, but to consume data, I think that UI has a huge play, and we're seeing massive differences. Even in the agentic interface we offer, we also do visual elements. And the numbers, when we measure how many users engage with the text response from the agent versus visual response from the agent, the visual response get a lot more clicks and engagement, dramatically more. than text response, because users don't have the time to quickly read a lot. I can analyze visual. I can see KPI trend takes me like probably like milliseconds to understand KPI trend, because we are tuned to understand visual very quickly. It's screen, the line going up, and I can see a number. It takes me a split of a second. But if I need to go read 2-3 sentences, it's kind of requires different skills. And I think that so UI has a huge impact. I do think that UI is going to stay there and allow me to visualize, allow me to see things I don't even know about my data, right? So if I have a question, great, chat. But if I just check the dashboard to see what's going on, there's things I need to see, because sometimes I might even forget to ask. So I think UI, the way I see it, is going to be, of course, agentic, generative, but allowing me to still use visualization and clicks for things like, let's say, if I want to design something, if I want to change the date picker, or I want to just move things around in an editor, visual, I want to actually do sketching of something. Right? Those things, sometimes clicks are much, much easier, faster, and more efficient. But when it comes to generating, it's much better for me to describe what I need in just chat. Or if I need quick answers, or if I need like a quick prep for a meeting, I want to see it, in a nice widget. But when I want to see what's going on, I would love to see the dashboards. I would love to see those kind of visual elements. So I think it's going to be a combination, less and less menu diving, more and more kind of agentic experience. That is in a different way to think about it, is like you take a B2B product and it becomes a series of lovable screens. Lovable is one screen.
Yeah, exactly.
They generate a website and said that's what they do. So the website is on the right side, the chat is on the left side, but it's always there, but they just generate website. As soon as they start, going to their dashboards and other features, suddenly you need another lovable experience, because now you're in different context. So I think when you think about your solution today, how can you turn those screens into lovable screens? And with very contextual assistant built into that. So they don't need to have this cognitive load. They feel that productivity is part of your solution. But still, like in many, many cases, clicks and visualization is so powerful.
I fully agree. And not because I'm a designer, I want to say that it's going to exist, but really it's something that I've been asking myself a lot, because I'm like, okay, am I spending my time on the right things, or am I wasting my time building my business? And that's what I feel as well, is that, I mean, you described it the best way possible before, like where you said, like, for passing over information, text and audio is great, but for consuming information, it's a different kind of a case. Like, you really need a visual. And if we take the example of a scheduling software, you really need to look at your calendar and be able to say, okay, these are the cleaning appointments that I have for this week. These are the cleaners. You need the color coding and all these. But the really cool thing that AI can add on top of that is that you can create artifacts. Like, you can analyze that calendar and create different kind of artifacts. Like, that's something I really love with AI, is that it can generate these dynamic visual elements and not just static images, but let's say HTML kind of a mini apps or websites, and consume stuff. Like, if you need to reschedule 10 cleaners at the same time, it can really help you to generate some custom views, AI, that you can define it from a UX point of view, that when people do this, generate a view like similar to this. You can give it some components. And yeah, you can empower really custom workflows in a very seamless way, where it's not another button hidden under a menu where they need to explore. They can go through that flow. They can actually say, I want to reschedule these people, and then the whole thing is very dynamic. So yeah, it's a very interesting one, how it's changing. I'm curious, have you seen products where they're really, like, what are the most AI built, let's say, products that you've seen out there in terms of the design side, like for what you're describing? Because what I've seen mostly is that you have that the AI and the rest of UI, they're pretty much separated in a way. You have like the conversation chat, and then you have like the static interface, like, let's say, linear, that is very popular in the project manager space. It's the only way that it's integrated is the agents when you leave a comment in the tool under an issue, and then the agent can jump in. But I'm curious if you've seen, what are the products you've seen where the whole UI is more dynamic, if you've seen any?
Yeah, very few, I would say. I think it's like today
Mm.
we are still in a bolt-on kind of AI,
Mm.
not because it's easy, quick wins. I'm gonna help you summarize this page, or or it's just a support AI. It lacks the context. It's not necessarily like doing kind of vibe coding experience. So that those are kind of what we are seeing, and what we are pushing for is like you should put like an embedded one that is actually next to your screen. It should be powerful enough to change stuff. So, for example, with Mixmax, it can change the stages of the sequence you're building. It can read it. So you feel like you have really a true kind of generative copilot that is really helping you when you need it. So I think it's like in many cases, what we're seeing still today is like just button says generate with AI.
Yeah,
As soon
exactly.
as soon as I see that, I think it's designed to fail, and the reason is it doesn't have enough context. If I generate a button, it's like going to Google search and just clicking on "I'm feeling lucky."
Yeah.
I didn't give you a lot of context. What
Yeah.
do I need you to? What do I need it to do? What is like? So I think to be successful, you want to have the context. We invest a lot in context. One of the things that a agentic interface needs, where a classic interface does not need. A classic interface, it's a very deterministic, like
Yeah.
menu, clicks,
Yeah.
visualization. In agentic interface, to be effective, it needs context. It needs like to know which page are you on, what is the content of that, how your dashboard right now looks like, what the data is inside, who are you as a person, what is your objective. Now, when I chat with the agent, it has the context. It's much more powerful. But if I just click a generate with AI, it doesn't have all this context. So again, knowledge about your solution, all that is context, and that's is the huge difference between like having a bolt-on or a more native experience is very, very helpful. So the context is becoming the name of the game, and it's a big difference. It's not how it just looks, which is also very important. Is what type of context you can constantly want to give the agent. So it's very helpful. One of the other contexts is like what features can it actually use. So usually what I see when they just bolt on those like summarize this page for me as a button, it is helpful, but again, usually it's kind of trying to feel lucky. And we are not putting AI in a place it can be very successful because it doesn't have enough context. And maybe the user wants to tell you something before they say generate, right? So I think those are elements that is important to implement. Usually what happens is like companies are launching AI, but it's not necessarily doing, they're trying to kind of rethink everything and like throw everything to an MCP. But again, MCP also lacks the content. MCP is a new name for API. But it just like the decisioning of what to do, the best practices and all that stuff are lacking. And I think that UI has a lot of context. When I give you a tool with MCP, let's just take an example, easy example of a dashboard. If I give you an MCP, I need to also make sure that I also pass defaults and things like that. When the agent is inside the UI, your UI already has those defaults. It picked the last 30 days. It knows your settings. So there's a lot of power to kind of deploy agentic interface as opposed to say, no, everything's going to be managed from Claude and MCP is going to solve it. MCP is going to solve a lot of like input outputs when it's like very specific. I like to open a Jira ticket from Claude, but not necessarily seeing all the what I don't see, what's like the burn chart and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's where I need the visualization, and I need a powerful video, not just a simple one. And so and then if I find myself giving a lot of context to Claude, I feel like that's kind of a UI context. Usually, I just get for free when I log into the solution. So UI today is becoming part of the context, and I think this is what is missed. Like people say, "Oh, we're gonna have MCP, don't worry," and everybody's gonna be in Claude and like, and I'm like, okay, how are you gonna differentiate products if everybody's in Claude and using your solution, and you feel like you're a headless SaaS? What's gonna be the differentiation? So I think the good news, I think it's like it's not going to be that way. I think the visualization is the most successful AI companies like Lovable versus like are very much with UI and you're going to their solution as opposed to try to do it outside. So even when you code stuff, you want to see visualization. What is the output? Right. Without that, it's a bunch of code.
Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree on the context. And honestly, like from my personal experience, also the fact that I need to provide a lot of context is sometimes the friction point to avoid using AI, like through like an MCP, because I'm like, oh, I really need to describe a lot of details of what I'm gonna do. Let's just do the clicks. Let's just do it this way. It feels more productive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really hear you on that part. And for me, one thing that I haven't seen as much, but is very interesting. Like I brought the example of rescheduling before, right? Let's say you have 10 cleaners and one cleaner leaves and that cleaner has like 20 customers that they're working with. And suddenly you need to take all these 12 customers and find a new cleaner for each of them. So you need to look at the skills of every cleaner. What are the open spots? Then discuss with all these customers. Like it's a very complex kind of a process from a business point of view for a cleaning business, let's say. And this is one of the use cases that we want to approach with AI, for example, we were discussing yesterday at ZenMade. And for me, one thing that I haven't seen as much and I'm really envisioning is custom flows you trigger. Like, let's say a cleaner quit. Maybe there's a button like this that triggers a custom flow powered by AI with very like where you really look for very specific context, you ask very specific questions, and you use like generative UI for this to make it like a 4 clicks process instead of like a 2 hours process. Let's say. So yeah, I'm not sure how you will describe it, but AI powered subflows that are really focused, that's a very interesting one because it's what you said, like usually there is just a button, do like, generate a summary, like something very specific, but it's always like just something simple, not really a full flow, but more of a generate a piece of text. And then you have the sidebar or the tableau that is, sometimes like very, very disconnected. It really depends on the tool on that. And on the UI, it's really true what you said is you see where they are, you can see the context. You've also seen what they did before. So you already have some idea of what these people are trying to do, and then you can gather some more and help them out. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that the new stack or the new way to think about the architecture as well is we're going to see more agentic interface like UI with generative, with chat, with voice, with dynamic elements, but we're still going to see like under hood deterministic endpoints. And the reason is like we eventually when we save something, that's not where the probabilistic layer is good. You want to have those validation and
Exactly.
deterministic elements. So you did not book a phantom flight to somewhere.
Yeah.
So that is going to stay. And I think that most companies has that, like if you have a big customer base and usage, you have actually valuable data and workflows that are there for a reason. There's a lot of years of investment that still is very much needed. So I think then there's another area which is like very specific focused workflows. So each business has kind of the workflow is part of that know-how, and this is where you build those specialized agents that just like take those decisions to trigger the right workflow. So it's a combination of deterministic with AI. It's the same way we do, like in the front end and agentic interface, we do a combination of deterministic with probabilistic. We basically help the AI is taking decision, but eventually it goes with your existing UI, existing backend. It's just a driver in that car, right? So it takes away the friction from you and cognitive load. When you build those like agent loop in the backend, those are like looking at, for example, cleaner data, and they need to kind of automate something. They run in the background. So in this case, you're going to build that because this is your specialized kind of area. You're going to leverage your data and automate some of the decisions. Again, when the agent is taking a decision, it will trigger a deterministic workflow because you want to have consistency. Like if this happens, so it's a new way of thinking from engineering, product, UX. It's like
it's
ingrained.
really fun.
Yeah, it's like you want to have that combination. So I think it's like, it's also like our brain and our bodies. Like our brain can like dream a lot, but our body is very physical.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a combination, and I think we're adding a brain to the solution, but you
Mm,
also kind of really need to make sure that it's grounded in your data and your
mm,
workflows, so it's predictable and reliable at the same time, which is very personalized and smart. So I think that the new stack would be like deterministic. Then you have the agent loop, which you're building, and then also the agentic interface. Those are very three different things that are changing.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the way I see the architecture.
Yeah, I fully hear you, and I fully agree. Yeah, these like even I've been thinking about them as, for example, like when the AI would suggest some kind of a changes, just ask them to confirm every single change to make sure nothing went wrong there. Like just adding that kind of a like I'm not sure if it would qualify as like the deterministic part that you said is make it very clear that this is what's going to happen and there is no chance like something can go wrong is for sure something to have there. And yeah, the analogy you made with the brain and the body really makes sense as well. What was the thing that I wanted to mention there? Let me think. Oh yeah, like one thing that is for me super interesting with AI, and I'm really like I really want to build features with AI in tools like ZenMate is that now the product can be more proactive, right? Like it could be you could make it proactive before as well, but it was more complex, let's say from a technical point of view. So one of the use cases we've been discussing with one of the customers is that they run a cleaning business of 30 cleaners. And then one thing they're doing is that they track on spreadsheets when a cleaner says that I'm sick or I cannot make it, because they want to track the behavior and see is somebody calling sick way too often and is abusing kind of our policies and so on. And is there any alarm here that should be should notify us? And with AI, it's really cool. It can just have like agents to do this on a daily, weekly basis and really make the software more proactive and guide you. And for me, from a UX point of view, that's the most fascinating thing is now you can build less of a machine that has like input and output and more of a live organism in a way that that is awake and thinks on its own and does things and nudges you to do the some things and so on. So from a design point of view, it's pretty fascinating because you can provide more value and you can add more sophisticated intelligence based on the workflows these people have, the very specific problems that they have for that specific business in that specific industry and so on. So yeah, that's something that I find really fascinating about the future of products as well.
Yeah. I think another topic is actually how do you build trust as well, right? Like, because there's a lot of decisioning happening, and like you need to kind of build that trust that the output you're seeing is actually. So this is why I'm saying, like, when first, if they can double check, users will say, give me the answer, but can you show me the full report?
Yes.
That is increasing trust. And as you said before, like before you do any changing, there might be a misunderstanding. It's not even about like hallucination. It's about like you said something, you forgot to mention something else, and I just went ahead and did it. And I think that I'm seeing more and more that there's sometimes like even Claude. I work a ton with Claude every day, and suddenly it's like stop like verifying with me before it, because Claude knows I like to move very fast, and it's like I appreciate like closed loop with less questions, but sometimes say, hey, you're not kind of putting me in the loop, and I think and you're changing stuff that now I'm like I might lose trust. You need to tell me like keep me safe for myself. I did not provide all the context, and you just did something that is not certainly what I intend to do. So it's fascination, but it is something that when it's a meaningful operation and change operation, it's something that you want to always show, and even show visualization, so I can actually trust and see that this was what I intended to happen. Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned, I think that building trust is about showing the user the full picture. In many cases, again, like if I'm not showing the full picture, I might missed some context for the agent. The agent like thought it understood me completely, or I just missed saying, oh, you know what, this, I didn't mean that impact. So before create or update or delete and things like that, we definitely advise to put a human in the loop visualization. So the agent is like, here's what I'm going to do. And then you just click approve or apply. But more and more we're seeing like if it's like harmless, we want to have like a quick experience. But if it's like something that I'm now creating and has like the severities, the impact of a mistake is high, human in the loop is mandatory. The one thing we found really interesting is like we measure when we deploy an agentic interface, how many people actually gonna ask question like it's a support information, and how many will actually ask the agent to do things for them. And we even went to like, different industries when it's non-tech. And we found that 70% of the people will ask the agent to do things, and only 30% at maximum will actually ask information. So the switch that happened with the GPT, Claude, and everything, that people are now, they understand that AI can do. We have self-driving cars. We're seeing like robots. We have like, basically even autonomous drones. So people expect AI to do, not just to answer questions, which is really interesting. Why would I ask a question? I'm going to just tell you to do this, and I expect you to help me with that. So it was a very interesting learning. We thought we're going to need to explain, hey, the agentic interface means that it actually can do, not just like provide information. We did not need to educate about that. Users actually are coming in and actually asking the agent to do things, which is really interesting. Even kind of blue collar kind of type of user, which is great to see.
Yeah, 100%. That's also like the thing about the future of SaaS products and so on. That's also something to keep in mind. Is it's a whole thing in progress. Like the humanity is now adjusting to new technology. So what is true today is not going to be necessarily true the next year, because like if I look at myself, even like 2005 versus 2026, totally different relationship with AI and totally different usage and different expectations as well, like on what I assume that is going to be correct versus not. And I really like on the trust building, like I really like the whole mental model there that we're kind of discussing, where if you think about it, it's like you incorporate a brain into the system, like, and you could say that this is like a coworker, like a human in a way, a virtual human that people need to build very specific relationship with. So like trust is one of them. And then how do you define trust in a specific product? Like one is confirm before you change any data, hallucinations, like there are all kinds of things, but it's a very interesting mental model to define what are the things that we really need to be careful about when we deploy a solution like this and incorporate it into the product. Because indeed, if they lose trust, that's something we'll be discussing even outside of AI for the software, for Summit, for example, is if people see that the calendar has bugs and suddenly some appointments are not correct and they lose trust, he lost them. There is no way. Like this can happen maybe one, maybe two times, then they're gone, because they cannot trust what they see. Right? It's like working with me. And if you ask me to do something and I say 5 times yes and I don't do it, then it doesn't make sense to ask me. It's like, probably going to stop working together, because you cannot rely on what I'm saying. And it's the same thing with products as well. So it's a very interesting one, like from a UX point of view, like now what are the things you need to be careful about, that it's not just about the visual design and the user flow, but the whole behavior of the system.
There's another aspect of speed and learning and UX. What I found very exciting is like, as you said, like I'm going in and I evaluate solutions. I think there was like many AI for generating great slides. There was like a couple of solutions. I'm not going to mention the names. Eventually, and even Gemini and Claude can generate slides. All right. So you find yourself that you're comparing the outcome from each one. And you find yourself like, which one created the best outcome faster, the initial generative part, like, and I felt like that's going to be one of the things to think about, like, how can I generate the best outcome from your first prompt? It's going to be 80% of the outcome. It's actually not good to do 100% because you're never going to know what I really need, but you know the basics. So I think that's one thing, is like how data and delivering that outcome matters, how the expectation for low friction, right? I just start from a prompt, I see outcome. This is like nuts. Like we used to like go in, click around, start filling out forms. So I think, the speed of delivery of outcome is changing completely. The other aspect of speed is like startups today can build a whole feature, a whole system very quickly. So if you're an existing company and you have install base, you have an advantage because you have customers and data. You have a huge disadvantage. You're moving slow. Even if you think you're releasing every week, every 2 weeks, every day, I think you're moving slow, and you have to realize that you have legacy code. You have, and that's another element to think about. You have to iterate very quickly. You have to learn very quickly. If you're still like, hey, I'm going to do like a 6 weeks sprint and iterate and learn, you're going to be very, very slow moving vehicle versus the market that is like truly closing the loop faster. And so I think getting a strong feedback loop, understanding a lot regards to the UI, the UX, like, is it actually compelling? People will go in, if they're getting stuck, they're not going to come back. They're going to jump to another solution. So being iterative, learning and applying a solution quickly is going to be key. Because you cannot have a great roadmap anymore and then say, yeah, in 6 months I'm going to be this and there. You're going to start learning in 6 months, which is super slow today. 6 months today is like a lifetime. Right? Like Versa, a couple of companies went in 9-10 months to 100 million ARR. It's like it's a lifetime. It's like 10 years. So I think they like culturally to move to a very fast, quick iterations is so critical now. And so critical. And again, with the agentic interface, there's a huge benefit of actually learning quickly. Like we have the intent data. So you know what they're trying to achieve. You have the usage signals, so you know whether they're successful or not. Of course, it creates like a new area for how do you test automate that? How do you compare different models? There's obviously an element of cost. How do you know which model performs the best, the fastest, and the cheapest? And so I think that those are kind of the new challenges that moving to AI native or agentic interface is introducing. So I think everything is kind of changing, and everything is like has to be rebuilt from the way we think, with the way we deliver, the pace. Those are exciting changes.
Yeah, the expectations. On this one, I'm curious, like a quick question from you, because you have a lot of experience in the tech and SaaS industry. When it comes to building, what have you personally experienced? Like that, I guess that you've seen your dev team and like your product team being able to ship much faster. But when it comes to reviewing code and getting things to production, having a stable product and so on, like what are some challenges there? Because that's something I keep hearing from devs. Like I've seen dev teams moving faster, but always being skeptical on, I'm not going to just ship AI code and call it a day, because this is way too out of control in a way. I don't really understand what is in there. How can I maintain something that not that I didn't type the code of, but more like that I don't fully understand. And when I hear these stories from Claude that, we open, like the guy of Claude Code, that he opened like 350 PRs in a night. I'm like, okay, cool. But the first question is like, what is in that PR? Because it could be a change of a label. Yeah, sure, you don't need to test that, but it could be a whole new feature that is more critical. So that's something in all these kind of changing environments, something that I'm trying to figure out and see how different teams approach it. So I'm curious about your take and what you've seen personally.
Yeah, we are moving super fast. Obviously, the token cost is going up dramatically. Like Opus is like an army of developers. That is kind of and increasing dramatically. Of course, the big risk is like how much can you as a person review. So I think as engineers, they're becoming like in the way they articulate the jobs to be done and the way they review it. So I think that's like one challenge. So one of the speed blockers is that like usually engineers are not measured by how they describe something or communicate. They are great in like logical problems, but now they need to actually describe and articulate exactly what they're trying to achieve because this is a language model. So if they do a good, so suddenly it's not about how smart you are in algorithm in math, is actually how good do you articulate the problem. Then the other challenge is like, can they sit and review a lot of code? This is also like a new challenge. You can write at one pace, but suddenly you have like, it's like,
Exactly.
counting at 200 miles an hour. This is like, that's a lot of input. So there's a risk of drifting ideas, code out that he didn't intentionally do. The way we tackle that is with test, with basically looking at more and more coverage in testing, and actually testing AI is completely different challenge. So we actually built another solution. We call it Trust Lab, and we are thinking even to launch it as part of our solution to anyone that wants to use it. It is testing agents, the way the agent behave, and it does that automatically because it's not like classical testing when you say, oh, if it deterministic testing is like failed or succeeded. In an AI testing, it is about a score, like how well did the agent do. It's about like LLM as a judge. It's about all those other elements. So I think again, like in testing, suddenly you need to test AI, and test AI is non-deterministic. It's not true or false. It's about is it getting better in percentage or worse? And obviously, if it's actually did something it should not do. So when we launch an agentic interface, number one, it's always grounded in existing product or user permissions. So the worst case scenario, it's like it tries to do something on behalf of the user and it cannot do something illegal or does not fulfill the parameters. The second is like we are testing different behavior, and we use anywhere from LLM as a judge with this trust layer to see that is when we switch models from Gemini Flash to Pro, from 3 to 3.5, we want to understand, are we getting better at speed? Is it better quality? So we're getting into a spectrum of score, how well the agents are doing. So we discovered this pain, and we decided to actually build a whole module called Trust Lab. So we can actually iterate fast, deploy fast, but we can always see, how the agents are actually performing, and detect if there's actually any kind of leakage. So it allows us to really deploy quick changes, but feeling like enough security that it will catch it before even deploying. And if we did deploy something, it will surface that very quickly because, hey, this is something that is not expected.
Yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, definitely a challenge. I think it's like the bottleneck is actually the end user. We are the bottleneck for AI. We need to read a lot. We need to write a lot.
Yes.
We need to know what we're asking for. The other bottleneck, as you mentioned, is can you actually test the volume of features you just released? That's another bottleneck I think that we see in AI.
Yeah. For example, now I created like 3 PRs like within the last few days, for example, at ZenMate with some design improvements. And I'm not an engineer myself. Like I looked into the code. It looks at a high level fine. I don't see any crazy change, but a developer needs to review. And now this is going to take days because somebody needs to have some kind of capacity. And these are problems that I've seen like coming up in bigger teams where you just have like too many open pull requests that need to go through a review, and then they're going to leave a comment, and then you're going to reply it. Then they also need to look again. So it's just kind of a very slow process. So what I hear from you is essentially what is emerging and like what is happening already is that you need to build like way more advanced tooling for the review and not just keep it traditional. Because if you do like fully AI native coding and then fully traditional human-based review, then it defeats the purpose, right? Because you get a lot of speed to write the code, but then it's still slow because it takes forever to review. And that's where you really need to build some some workflows. And I guess like for every company it's different. Like it's different if you sell to enterprises, if it's just a fun B2C app about seeing where the sun is, or like if it's something that your whole business relies on and the data are sensitive. Like it really depends on the type of testing and the infrastructure really depends on the product as well. Cool.
Absolutely.
I see we're almost on time. So I was thinking, I mean, we could go on like when it comes to AI, ask you more questions about how your team is using AI and so on, but I think gonna easily spend another 30 minutes discussing these topics. So I was thinking to go maybe to the last question that I was mentioning for the podcast, which is what is at the moment your top two, let's say, favorite SaaS products, or it could be also apps. They don't have to be B2B SaaS. And why? Why are you so excited about them?
I would say like obviously Claude Code is kind of the number one thing I'm using today. But it's what I've discovered and the why I actually like it. We've created like a learning loop. So we still have a CRM, but we also have a project in Claude. It's kind of a agentic CRM. That is why, because it actually learns. And then when we need to kind of send a proposal or, get a status, it's very smart to help us as opposed to, so we store the data in the CRM, but I really enjoy that. Also in product marketing, we have kind of a project and we go in and everything we do, it always learns and register everything. So it's such a great solution to go in and says like, all the context is live. The agent always learns with you, so you can actually produce very smart outputs, and it evolves with you. So I found like the next generation of solution that you like to use is the one that learn and evolve. And we are trying to also be that solution. Like when we think about our product, I want to make sure that if the first user comes in, then I learn from that, and the user number 1,000 is going to get so much better experience because there's always learning loop that you want to apply. And so I think tools that learn and improve is something that you enjoy doing. And by the way, that's exactly what Claude is doing. It is learning from code and releasing versions that are better and better because and for more users using the solution, the better the solution is. I think the same way with like Lovable and others, like you could see that there's a learning loop. They evolve and they're getting smarter. In some cases, I also discovered that we build our own tools in something that in the past I would not even dream of building. Today, I feel like we use marketing tools. There's a lot of like the known marketing tools, and sometimes you start like as soon as the configuration is becoming a hassle, we just like say, let's just build that feature here. And because usually what they do is segmentation, data enrichment. Those are easy to build. The difference is we want to put our own context. So it's interesting to see the dynamics. Is like we end up using, probably more communication tools and less kind of the heavy SaaS. And yeah, the ones that I enjoy most are the tools that actually learn. That they're getting better each week, each month. Not more features, they actually learn. You can see that the output is better.
It's getting better. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Also, you're the first one that says that your favorite product. I mean, you said Claude. Okay, that's an existing one, but the other two were actually things that you built. That's an interesting observation also, and it's not something that you purchased. On this very quick question on the agentic CRM, from what I understand, is like some kind of a mini app that you connect it to different sources and it actually learns about every customer and gives you like the full story. Because that's something I've been discussing with one of the teams, that we have tried different CRMs, but they're really focused on the operations of a sales team and less on here are the 10 opportunities that I have active on my pipeline right now. I want to be able to click on each of them and just see the full story. Understand what's going on, what will we discuss via email, then through a call, and then generate insights on a weekly report that my whole team can consume and understand what's going on. And it's not so complex in theory. Like you have your email inbox, your transcripts, and I think, and Slack, these are the three sources. Just connect them and provide the story in a good structured format, and then create some weekly reports. And I haven't seen it as a feature to the CRMs that much. You always need to connect all your sources there, and then use your email through the CRM, for example, which makes it way more complex. So that's something we've been playing around as an idea to build for one of the teams as an internal tool. But I'm curious about your agentic CRM. What are the core things that it does?
So the big difference is it sounds easy. The big difference is it's how would you create this learning cycle? So you don't need to, hey, now, for example, I want to create this response, right? And I want to create this proposal. So usually when I go to a CRM, I find myself collecting data. So it knows how to collect data for me. And it's not even, I don't need to ask it to collect data. I'm saying I need to write this proposal for this customer, or I need to write this email to this customer. It knows how to collect data. It also learns this. Actually, we are kicking deterministic job that makes it learn, saying it stops. It's actually using database in the backend, saying, let me just stop, let me understand, crunch the topics, understand so we did plug it into kind of a vector database and a classic database, so it actually can store it, so it's a live memory. And so what I felt like suddenly, the reason I did not like to go to a CRM, because we're saying, oh my God, fetching data is so tedious. And when I go to that CRM, I just focus on I need to write this. It already does that collection, and it learns from last time. Hey, we changed, for example, our messaging. So when you do a price proposal, it automatically knows to change that. Oh, the other one, which is the marketing agent, again, it's more data producer. It always keeps track about our messaging and goes back and updates all the places. And so you feel it's actually progressing with you. So that learning is something that most LLMs are not good at, because it's very expensive for them to go and have a big memory. So what we did is we invest in those vector databases, in local memories, so it can, and then deterministic flow saying, go learn and fix everything. So that becomes there's no longer oh my God, I need to go to the CRM, or now I need to deal with a marketing agent that I need to, again, bring a lot of context. So the number of iterations, number of prompt dropped dramatically. So now I'm actually, I think one of the new KPIs is how many prompts did you had to do before your outcome. And by the way, with good agentic interface, with learning, with good UX, and with good output, you're going to reduce the number of prompts. So I think in the 2027, it's going to be how many, if I think in 2025,
instead of clicks,
instead of clicks, it's going to be number of prompts. I think it's going to be the new kind of elements. And also the speed, by the way, speed of LLM. We're seeing that if the LLM is taking more than 3 seconds, the user disengages. So speed is a thing for users.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's even one last quick comment from my side on this. I've been working with Conductor so that I can work on many PRs at the same time, because one new thing that wasn't there before is when I'm building, suddenly I have to wait. Before I didn't have to wait. I was always active. My brain was always active in a way. And now I run the prompt and I have to wait for Claude to finish whatever I asked it to do. And how do I fill in that gap? Because sometimes it may take minutes. And then context switching is something that I've been seeing happening more and more, and that I needed to Conductor, where I'm going to work on 3 similar projects at the same time, so that my brain is not going to get destroyed in a way. And that's something indeed, if it's more than a few seconds, that's why I install Conductor. I'm I need to do something, and I shouldn't open my inbox or run things. I should just have another project that I'm working on, and I need many parallel workspaces. So very, very interesting stuff. Thanks a lot for all the insights. I think it's the best episode we have on AI, hands down, this one. And why Yeah, why I love like the podcast and talking with people like you is because you can really see what's going on and not like all the hype you read on social media, because you're building a product, you're selling to companies, like you have real data from real users that you can start and talk about. So thanks for everything. Yeah, that was really, really useful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.